You are sitting there, staring at the blue bubbles on your screen, waiting for them to turn into gray text. 10 minutes have passed. Then an hour. Then a day. You tell yourself they are buried under a mountain of spreadsheets, caught in a back-to-back meeting, or dealing with a sudden family crisis. You are building an entire architectural firm of excuses to shelter them from your own growing anxiety. You convince yourself that busyness is the only barrier between you and the connection you crave. It is a comforting lie, a soothing balm for an ego that refuses to accept the cold reality of displacement. Stop lying to yourself. The truth is not hidden behind a heavy workload. It is sitting right there in the empty space between your last sent message and their lack of response. Nobody in this world is too busy to send a 10-second text if they truly want to. If they haven't replied, it is not because their calendar is full, it is because their interest has emptied. You are not a priority. You are an option they have decided to stop exercising. We live in an era where the smartphone is an extension of our own anatomy. It is a leash, a mirror, and a gateway. You check it the moment you wake up. You check it under the table at dinner. You check it while you walk. If someone can check their phone to see if you have messaged, they can absolutely tap out a response. When the messages start shrinking, it is not a technical glitch or a sudden decline in their typing speed. It is a deliberate edit. It is the tactical withdrawal of attention. Think back to the beginning. The replies were instant. The paragraphs were long. There was an effort to bridge the distance between your two realities. But then, the erosion began. A haha replaced a witty observation. A thumbs-up emoji replaced a thoughtful sentence. Then came the gaps, 2 hours, 6 hours, until finally, the silence becomes the new baseline. You are witnessing the slow death of a connection that you are trying to resuscitate with pure willpower. You keep sending memes, keep asking about their day, keep trying to force the sparks to fly in a room that has already been cleared of oxygen. It is painful to watch, and it is even more painful to live, but you must look at the data. The data does not care about your feelings. The data says they are moving on, and you are the only one standing on the platform waiting for a train that has already been rerouted to a different city. People prioritize what they value. This is a universal constant. If a person values you, they will carve out time, even in a storm. They will make sure you know that you are acknowledged. When they stop doing that, they are communicating with you clearly, even if they aren't using words. The silence is the loudest message they have ever sent you. You want to believe in the illusion of their busy life because the alternative is to accept that you simply didn't make the cut. You didn't provide enough dopamine, enough validation, or enough utility to keep them invested. That stings, doesn't it? It feels like a failure of your character, a direct indictment of your worth. It is not. People leave, people fade, and people lose interest. These are natural cycles of human interaction. The problem arises when you refuse to let go, when you cling to the fading echoes of a conversation that has already ended. You are mourning a ghost while the living person is busy building a life that doesn't include you. The sooner you strip away the romanticized excuses of their lack of time, the sooner you can regain your own dignity. Stop dissecting their lack of reply for hidden meanings. There is no hidden meaning. The absence of action is the action. You might argue that people get overwhelmed, that modern life is a frantic scramble, and that sometimes, things just slip through the cracks. While it is true that people get distracted, they never forget the things that genuinely matter to them. If you were a person they feared losing, they would find the 3 seconds it takes to send a single word. They would prioritize you above the algorithm, above the mindless scrolling, and above the trivial obligations that fill their hours. When you are the one always initiating, always waiting, always justifying their absence, you are essentially signaling to them, and to yourself, that your time is worth less than theirs. You are training them to treat you as an afterthought. You are becoming background noise in their life, a notification they can snooze whenever it becomes inconvenient. This is not a sustainable dynamic. It is a slow decay. You are losing your own power, your own confidence, and your own sense of self-respect in the process of trying to convince someone to pay attention to you. Why would you want to hold on to someone who treats your presence like a chore? Why would you want to be someone's obligation instead of their escape? Look at the pattern. The decline is rarely abrupt, it is calculated. It is a slow, methodical peeling away of layers. First, they stop asking questions. Then, they stop reacting to your news. Then, the responses become purely functional, transactional, dry. You are still trying to maintain the original energy, but the resonance is gone. You are singing into a vacuum. Every time you send another message to fill the silence, you diminish the likelihood of them ever returning to you with genuine interest. You are pushing them further away with your need for constant contact. They can smell the desperation, and it is the ultimate repellent. People are drawn to those who have their own lives, their own focus, and their own boundaries. They are not drawn to those who are waiting by the screen, hungry for a crumb of acknowledgement. If you find yourself checking the time since their last message, you have already lost. You have given them control over your emotional state. You have surrendered your internal peace to an external factor you cannot influence. This is a game you cannot win because it is a game you should never have entered in the first place. The shift must come from within. You need to stop looking at the screen as a lifeline and start seeing it as just another piece of glass. You must reclaim your time. If they are not giving you their best, why are you giving them your best energy? Stop the frantic cycle of validation. Silence is not an attack, it is an answer. Accept it for exactly what it is. If someone stops putting in the effort, you must have the courage to stop putting in the effort as well. Not out of spite, not to play games, but out of self-respect. You are not a secondary character in their story. You are the protagonist of your own. If they fade into the background, let them go. If they disappear, let them leave. Do not chase what is clearly retreating. There is a profound, quiet strength in saying nothing when you have nothing left to give, and in walking away when the door is no longer being held open. You will find that when you stop waiting, the anxiety vanishes. When you stop counting the hours, the world expands again. You are not losing a connection, you are shedding a burden. You are choosing to stand on your own 2 feet rather than leaning on a structure that was already crumbling under the weight of their indifference. It hurts to admit, but the truth is your only path to freedom. There is a finality in this realization that feels like a weight falling off your shoulders. You realize that you have been holding your breath for someone who is already exhaling. You have been fighting for a seat at a table where you are no longer being served. The realization is sharp, cold, and utterly transformative. It is the moment you stop waiting for the chime of a notification and start living for the sound of your own voice. You understand that true connection is a mutual fire, not a one-sided arson project. If the flame has died, you do not keep throwing gasoline on the ashes. You walk into the light of your own day. You are free now. The screen is silent, but your life is suddenly very loud. You are no longer waiting for them to choose you, because you have finally chosen yourself. They weren't too busy to love you. They were just busy looking for someone else.